the Irrational Confidence Podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're talking college football, and it is week number 12. We got a dozen weeks in the books. Well, dozen weeks
Baker's
after
dozen.
this week.
Baker's dozen.
Getting to Baker's dozen would be next week there. And
We got week zero. We got week zero. It's Baker's dozen.
I'm joined by my co-host, the king of the Fort Lauderdale Pickle Festival, because he's such a big deal. My co-host, Fresh. Fresh, how you doing, buddy?
I didn't even know this thing, and that, wow. Wow.
June 15th, Pickle Festival, Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
I'm definitely not participating in the Pickle Festival.
Wow, you're such a big deal.
I'm doing great right now. I can't believe it is mid-November. We've had the second playoff rankings come out tonight. A lot of people are up in arms about where their teams are located. But you know what? Like any other rankings we've seen before, it doesn't mean a dang thing until that Sunday afternoon after Championship Sunday and Saturday. So it's setting the tone. There's a lot in line, but we got a big weekend ahead with a lot of chaos could ensue as a result of it.
Yeah, there's a bunch of us like myself rooting for a little bit of chaos, a little bit of craziness to take place in the college football world here as well. But before we get rolling along, before we get cruising through the 6 games that we got this week to preview, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, get notified every single time we drop a new episode. Hey, and make sure you're checking out SpinableSports.com. We got all sorts of fun stuff over there. Fresh, that's all I'm going to say on that. So let's get rocking and rolling here. It is a fun weekend. My team, the team I am low-key, ladies and gentlemen, I am low-key pulling for this team. The Boston College Eagles, they're traveling to SMU. They're going down to Dallas, Texas. The curtains do not need to be drawn at Gerald R. Ford Field. It's the SMU Mustangs. They're 8-1 on the year, 5-0 in the ACC. Come on, Mustangs. Against the Boston College Eagles, they are 5-4 on the year, 2-3 in the conference. At time of record, hey, Fresh, this game is a 17.5-point favorite to SMU. Over-under is set at 53.5. I feel like I'm starting to get a little nervous for SMU because are they going to have like one of those stinker games? They've looked so well. They're back in the state of Texas, and all 3 of their next games are winnable football games. So I don't know. What you got? Boston College, SMU. Do you think that there's a shot BC pulls this upset?
Well, BC has been feisty all season. I think week 1 in Tallahassee on that Labor Day night, we all thought Florida State would have been better, that they just had a bad game for Georgia Tech, and then BC came in and beat the trash out of them, and then we started believing that Florida State was just trash. But that kind of set the tone where that BC running game, that offensive line, Castellanos the quarterback, they were just going to attack, and they were going to be the physical football team. They were going to dominate the line of scrimmage, and they were going to just wear you down. The defense is going to find ways to get things done here and there. They weren't going to beat anybody 50-0, but they were going to fight. They obviously beat Florida State. They gave Missouri all they could handle. They just this past week pulled up a nice little win up there in Chestnut Hill. They're a bunch of battlers, and Bill O'Brien has gotten that entire program a lot faster than I think people really expected to take it, to more notoriety. Like Chip Halfway actually didn't do too bad there. Boston College had some winning seasons, had them competing. But Bill O'Brien's taken to that next level, trying to restore that program to where they were under Matt Ryan. This is, you start to see a taste. You don't know what you're going to get every week. You might get a clunker, you might get a battle. But they're going to be ready for, anything that shows up their doorstep. SMU is going to present a massive challenge for them, especially being on the road there in Dallas. If this was up in Boston with this kind of weather in mid-November, I would even be leaning more heavily toward Boston College just because that environment, it's just different when they get up to Chestnut Hill in a small stadium. It's not kind of the same when you're at home and whatever. But it's again being down there in Dallas. It's going to present a nice challenge. Just don't play with your food. This is a time of the year where teams that are favored, you just got to finish the game. Just get through it. The biggest trick right now for SMU is just win out, go to the ACC title game, and then beat the Clemson team or beat, Miami, whoever they're facing there, and get that bid into the playoff. You mess around, especially the way they were already positioned right now, outside the top 12, there's only one ACC team put into the field in the rankings as of November 12th. So it kind of, unless other things chaos that happens above them, they are sort of sitting there on that periphery, and they need to just make sure they focus on ACC games, even though they've played the best schedule, in my opinion, and your opinion as well, and they have a much better line of wins than Miami. People haven't got their eyes on them in a national showcase. This is the chance to keep focused, do your job. Don't worry about what the outsiders are saying, because if you keep winning, you're going to play an ACC championship game in Charlotte and go from there. Just got to be focused in this football game. Do not the moment get too big. Rhett Lashley, don't take too many risks. Just you don't have to oversell yourself. You don't need style points. Just take care of your business, keep marching the ball down the field, and don't let Boston College hang around. If BC hangs around, if you fumble the ball around, you mess around, you could be paying for it late down the stretch. Do not overlook the Eagles. Be professional about your approach. Come in there, run the football. Jennings make good decisions throwing the ball. Defense do just enough. I'm not sure I can call it a trap game, because I would call it a trap game if SMU is ranked number 8 in the country right now, and they are just really popping that radar. But with them being outside in that periphery, people are still kind of like, yeah, but for some casual fans, just stay your focus. Don't play with your food. Get the job done. Castellanos getting dinged up last week. If he plays for Boston College, that really increases their chances of maybe being in this ballgame and pulling out the upset. If not, I expect a heavy dose of the ground game. And you know what? They might take some chances. They have nothing to lose. They're still fighting for a bowl game. They have a couple games left. But they have nothing to lose. They can play the spoiler. They can ruin SMU's season by just showing up and making some plays. So expect them to play a little loose and reckless because you know what? This is what chaos is all for, and this is what we got to expect. But SMU in the very end, take care of business. Do what you need to do. You don't need to win by 50. You just need to win the football game and keep moving forward and let the rest of it take care of itself. In the end, I think SMU continues to keep going. That point spread was pretty high, 17.5. Especially I think Boston College is going to run the ball a little bit more. I think SMU is about 14. They do not cover the spread, but SMU will survive, move on, and keep their hopes of a playoff spot just in their eyesight.
Fresh. You got to get on. When you fall down, you got to get back up, and you got to get on the ponies, my man. You got to get on these ponies. Think about this story that we're living in. Think about the world that we are living in right now and how exciting this is. Early on in my lifetime, I was just a newborn babe. Back when SMU got the death penalty, the worst punishment ever in college football. And one of the biggest scandals ever in college football, going all the way up to the governor's office. If you haven't ever seen Pony Excess, the 30 for 30, it's a phenomenal look into that scandal there. If you're a younger college football fan, you're watching this. And then you see SMU crawl back, and every single time we think okay, they're kind of on their way back. They get kind of pushed back even more. And then all of a sudden we have conference realignment come out of left field where it just kind of goes haywire. SMU sitting there, they've been kind of planning this. They jump into the ACC, take no ACC money this year, which is impressive on them, and then proceed to do this. I am riding these ponies all the way to the bitter end this year, my friend. I am going to just be all about this one. I take a look at what SMU has been able to do this year, and it's the fact that how it comes down in November. Are you able to run the football? We've talked all year long about what great things Genty is doing up in BC. We take a look at some of the other great teams in college football right now. What do they have in common? They have a really strong running attack and the ability to get those tough yards when it matters the most. I take a look at Brashard Smith. Last 2 games, the kid's been absolutely on fire. This kid's from Richmond Heights, Florida, down in Alligator Alley, down there by the Florida Everglades. Guys, if you don't know anything about the Everglades, you got to be tough to come from the Everglades area, man. Those alligators sitting on the side of the road ready to bite your tires as you pull off to the side of the road because you ran out of gas on Alligator Alley. Fresh, you know all about that. You're down from that area. But this is why the SMU team is so much fun to watch here. This is why they are so much fun to watch here, Fresh, because we talked about this very early on in the year of whether or not we would get 2 group of 5 teams in. And I think I've been thinking all week, why have I been so excited about SMU? One, it's because it's a damn good story. And I am, more than anything else, if you know me, folks, I love a good story. 2, it's chaos. And it is like if Boise State and SMU get in, it will feel like we got 2 group of 5 teams in, even though SMU is the ACC representative. And what a better way to kind of announce themselves to the college football world again. And so, you tried to kill us off, but we're back. It took a long time. It took 40 plus years for us to come back from this thing, but we're back here as well. I'm going to ask you this, Fresh. Because SMU received the death penalty in the 80s, do you think the committee wants them in there?
Well, I tell you right now, from a TV perspective, they'd rather have SMU over Miami. I mean, what does Miami truly, outside of Miami, doesn't bring you anything from TV revenue? It's not the 80s, it's not the 90s, it's not the early 2000s. They don't want a home game down there because it's going to be 80% opposing fans. They don't want Miami. SMU would present a nice story. Well, honestly, Miami wouldn't even host the game anyway. They'd be one of the 4, but SMU would host a much better story than Miami. Miami does not draw. People hate watching Hurricanes. That's about the only factor. SMU would be a better TV draw, better money draw. I don't think what happened in the 80s has any really bearing on now because everybody's making money. NIL is prevalent. There's cash flowing left and right. And they're going to lose out on another hit in the Dallas, Texas market. No, they're going to take that money over whatever.
Right.
They want SMU to win the league, and Miami to have their second loss and just trickle off into oblivion.
Yeah. The one thing I'm liking about this football game, I'm looking at a lot of stuff here, Fresh, but one thing I'm really liking, do you think BC is good for 14 points in this game?
I think Boston College for 2 touchdowns, and I think they're going to try to control the clock too, which will limit possessions for SMU.
Right. SMU is not scoring. Only once this year at home has SMU scored less than 40 points in a game, and that is against Boston College. Heck, it's been very rare for them to score less than 42 points in the game. Over-under is set at 53.5. I love the over in this game because SMU scores way better when they're at home compared to when they're on the road. And again, if you feel like Boston College is worth at least 2 touchdowns, yeah, they might slow the game down. But guess what? This SMU offense has scored when it comes to playing at home in Dallas. Only team that they didn't do it to was BYU, and BYU is an undefeated Big 12 team. I don't think BC's defense is as good as BYU.
No, I think BYU's defense is very, very good. A lot of changes, though, was earlier in the year. That was also when SMU was rotating in Jennings as the quarterback and getting rid of Stones. They were going through that kind of transition from that perspective. If they play that game now, I would take SMU with BYU.
I would too.
The confidence level we see both those programs where BYU's kind of at times gotten by and they definitely survived via their chin there versus Utah, and SMU's continued to peak and grow toward that pinnacle moment as opposed to I think BYU is sort of plateaued from their overall play.
Yeah, look at us today, Fresh. We're talking about pickle festivals, Alligator Alley, and you're quoting the 3 Little Pigs. All right, Fresh, let's go to our next game of the week. We got the Utah Utes, who, controversial fashion, they're 4-5 on the year, losing the Holy War. They're only 1-5 in the Big 12, but we thought this game was pretty interesting. They're traveling up to Colorado. They also are on the outside looking in for the college football playoff. They're 7-2 on the season, 5-1 in the Big 12. They are looking to fight for that opportunity to play BYU in the Big 12 title game. I think they got a win to get in. Right now, Fresh, time of record, Colorado is a 10-point favorite in this game. Over-under is a little on the low side for me. 47.5 in this game. What do you got with Utah versus Colorado?
I mean, Utah's a wounded duck right now. There's two ways that the Utes can come out in this football game. Extremely pissed off that they got screwed in the Holy War, or just completely deflated. Right. Where you put everything in that game, the way it ended, and you got the game stolen from you. There's no in between. It's either they're going to just be flat and be done and just go through the motions, or they're going to come out with the hair on fire and take on the challenge of, you know what, we are, we've won two Pac-12 titles, in 2 of the past 3 years. We've been a force in this league. We were a force in the Pac-12, and now we're going to be a force here in the Big 12. We've got to make a statement for ourselves, and especially with Coach Whittingham being his last year, we got to get that last signature win, get to a bowl game, and keep it going. And they've had a clunker. Obviously, Cam Rising been definitely hurt most of the year, and it's just a lot of things are not functioning correctly right now for this youth program like they normally do. They're not running the ball very effectively with Bernard. The defense isn't playing at the same high level. They aren't having that clutch moment late in the football game, and you kind of thought that they had that magic last week, but it fell short. Can they just get themselves back up off the mat and being so deflated in a rivalry game and ready to take on Coach Prime, Shador, Travis Hunter, and the rest of the Buffaloes on the road? This is a tall task for Utah. I mean, if there's any other coach in the country, I'd be really worried. But Kyle Whittingham, I think, will get the guys galvanized, and I expect them to show up and give a fight. We always count out Utah, but they're playing USC. USC has too many weapons, or Ohio State in the Rose Bowl a few years back. There's no way they can compete. And Cam Rising and that team competed with them left and right. They will find ways to just button down the hatches and fight for each other. So I expect them to give a good battle. I gave my 2 scenarios, but I expect them to take the fight, mentality and really show up here and try to prove everyone wrong and rally behind that situation that happened last week. The other side, Colorado, legit serious Big 12 title contender. They're on the outside looking in from the rankings right now, but if they can keep themselves steady the course, keep the ship even, they're going to be playing in Dallas for the Big 12 title, which potentially could be a site where Deion could be coaching next year with the Cowboys. It layers there. Don't play with your food. Take care of business. We looked at the schedule back in the summer and the offseason and kind of figured, man, they better find 6 wins early because the last 3 games of the season were going to be very, very difficult with Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State. Well, right now, those 3 teams are in the bottom of the Big 12, all dealing with lack of not really showing up, definitely underachieved and dealing with some injuries. Can Colorado just stay focused? They do have talent on those 3 programs. They just haven't been able to put it together all year. Do not let these games, you don't let the records of these teams distract you from how they have been successful in the past. You've got to be focused. Come in here and attack Utah. Don't give them any relief. Don't let them have a moment to hang around, because Kyle Whittingham and that staff will find ways to slow the game down, be very archaic, be very old school, and run the ball and play defense. Shador, Travis Hunter, Horn, Shepard, that team, that offense especially, is grown up. They've moved from last year to this year. The offensive line is much better. The defensive line is much better. You're seeing players feel a little more confident and make plays for each other. This is going to be that one game. You're at home. In Colorado, Utah used to be a nice little battle back in the day, and they actually, honestly, were their Pac-12, foes. In Colorado, just get through this thing one step at a time. Stay focused. Get this done. You already got your bowl game now. Run the ball, throw the ball. Let Travis Hunter do his thing. Let Shador do his thing. Take care of business. I actually think Colorado, as much as the fight Utah is going to give, I think Colorado has enough to last. In the second half, they pull away and get this W and keep their mind focused on playing for that Big 12 title. Talk about a media bonanza. If Colorado, you asked the question before SMU and Miami, Colorado is what they want over BYU. If Colorado gets in the Big 12 and wins the Big 12 title and gets that one of the top 4 seeds, that's going to be a media darling, and they are going to just, ESPN is going to be loving people because that happens. What that says about BYU, I don't know. We'll find out. But they want Colorado to keep winning and have to play for the Big 12 title and let it shake out from there. And if you can get this game taken care of, I think Kansas and Oklahoma State continue to keep them more momentum to beat them too. So big game here for the Buffaloes. I think they take care of business and keep Coach Prime and the boys keep moving forward toward the college football playoff.
In order for anyone to beat Colorado, what you have to do is you really have to pressure Shedeur, and you need to get to him. Not just put pressure in his face, but you need to get home on some of those sacks there. You take a look at it. It's taking 28 sacks on the year, and you go back and take a look at their most recent loss to K-State. K-State had 6 sacks in that game, and a couple other times they really gave Shedeur some problems with the amount of pressure that they were able to bring. Kyle Whittingham, great defensive-minded coach, but Utah only has 16 sacks on the year. I don't think Utah is going to be able to concoct the amount of pressure that is going to be necessary for them to really challenge the Buffaloes in this game here. Other thing that we've been asking for, Fresh, and this has been when I was diving into Colorado, because, we come and go in between teams, like, hey, we're really going to look into you this week, but then the following week you're playing some team that has 2 wins on the year. We're really not going to pay a whole lot of attention to you. We kind of just weave in and out of these games. And I was thinking about a conversation we had about Travis Hunter and saying, who's that guy that's going to step up next to him? And you take a look at LeJontay Wester and Will Sheppard. With Horn being out with the injury from last week, Sheppard and Wester have really stepped up to be that complementary target along with Travis Hunter, because that was always the question. Travis Hunter, remarkable player, one of the best college football players we've seen in a very long time. Insane athlete. But again, sooner or later, you're going to bracket him. You're going to put a safety over top of him all the time. And yeah, he might get some catches, but they're going to limit his yardage. That's only the case if you don't have a secondary guy step up. That's been, I think, the most impressive thing to me with Colorado, because, yes, Fresh, you said perfectly with the improved offensive line play. That was a huge issue for Colorado last year. It's a reason that really sunk their ship. But not only did they improve in the trenches, they also got those complementary pieces to Travis Hunter that they didn't have previously. The other thing I like about this Buffaloes team is not only are they able to protect their quarterback a little bit better and they're having other guys step up, but this team is able to formulate pressure from different guys in different areas. You take a look at their team right now, they have 29 sacks on the year. Their leading guy has 5 on the year. And they have a bunch of guys with 3 sacks. What that tells me is that Dion and this defensive staff is figuring out different ways to bring pressure from different looks. I'm taking Colorado in the points in this one. And I think this is going to be a blowout. I'm taking Colorado the points, and I'd be taking the over on this one. I think Colorado is going to start really looking for the style points, because here's the thing. One thing we know about Coach Prime, it's not going to be a modest showing by him. They're going to want to put up the points. They're going to want that flash and pizzazz. It may come back to bite them, but you know what? I think that in this game, especially with a wounded Utah team, a Utah team that is not to the same level as we've seen them in years past, Colorado wins this one, wins big.
Like I said, Utah might play them tough early. They just don't have the weapons. This is a very depleted and beat up team, and the psyche of that team in the first quarter, we're going to know if they're really there to fight or not. I hope Whittingham was ready to fight and ready to play for the coach. But after last week, you never know.
Right. All right, Fresh. Let's go to the state of Pennsylvania in the steel city of Pittsburgh. No, we're not talking NFL, but the Clemson Tigers. They are going to travel up north into Pennsylvania. Clemson is 7-2 on the year, 6-1 in the ACC. Pitt is 7-2 on the year, 3-2 in the ACC. At time of record, over under is set at 54.5. Right now, Clemson is a 10-point road favorite. That's a lot of points to be a road favorite. Now, the question could be, after a 7-0 start, Pitt has lost 2 straight games. again, they got shellacked in Dallas to SMU and then lost to a mediocre Virginia team, Clemson, that lost to Louisville 2 weeks. They bounced back, beat Virginia Tech last week. And Cade Klubnik having a kind of low-key, quiet, impressive year on his hands. 24 touchdowns, 4 sacks. Fresh, you know how I feel about Dabo. What do you got for Clemson and Pitt?
Well, we've already talked about SMU tonight, and Clemson always right there. Miami's have that one loss to the conference. It does create a fun scenario of, as the season plays out, how the tiebreakers are going to go for the ACC. I think that's what Clemson has to keep in mind. Pitt already having 2 losses. They're kind of on it. Them and Louisville are sort of on the outside looking in. But you never know how the rest of the season is going to play out. But you look at the tiebreakers for the ACC. So you can get in the ACC title game. If 2 teams are tied, which most likely would be the situation, number 1, head-to-head competition with the 2 tied teams. Then you have win percentage versus all common opponents, and then win percentage versus common opponents based off of their order of finish, which is a whole mouthful to say right there. 4th is combined win percentage of conference opponents, and then 5th, the tied team with the highest ranking by the team rating score metric, whatever the heck that is. There's a 6th one, and the 7th one that I kind of really hope we get to an all-conference title game alignments. Basically, it's a coin flip, and the commissioner decides. If we just start going down these lists, which is very possible in some of these scenarios in these races, you need to start putting some beat downs on some people to add the style points, to add some of that win metric nonsense. So if Clemson has a chance, you just got to keep scoring points. This is their last conference game. They got the Citadel, and they got South Carolina. And I'm going to tell you right now, the only way for Clemson, in my opinion, to even have a chance to the playoff is winning the ACC. Because I got a feeling they're going to lose South Carolina anyway. South Carolina's a much better football team at this point in the season. You got to come in here, take care of business. Pitt has an offense. We talked about Cade Bell and Eli Holstein and that entire collection of talent they have on the offense of the ball. They've been moving the ball and scoring up, down, left, and right, whatever they want to do. Clemson's defense has shown at times to be very, very efficient, actually grow up. We thought they were going to come with some problems this year. I've lost a lot of guys. How was that defensive front? How was the pass rush going to get them? How was the secondary going to hold up? This might be their biggest test of the season. Louisville, obviously beat them. This is going to be their biggest test of the year. Can they contain this Pitt offense? They're going to be desperate after 2 straight losses. They're going to try to push the ball on this Clemson team. How are they going to be exposing Barrett Carter, linebacker Carter, and then Sammy Brown, linebacker? How are they going to expose them? It's just how are they going to be able to play in space against those 2 guys? It's going to be interesting how Clemson's defense, gets after it. Peter Miller in the middle of the field is a monster. I don't really see them running the ball and trying to take that A-gap, single, lineman away. They're going to have to get on the edge. They're going to have to throw the ball. How do they protect the quarterback? Clemson's defense still lacking some, lacking experience in the secondary. How are they prepared to be able to spread out in the field, to be able to tackle and cover? You're going to see a little more of a zone coverage approach, but they're going to have to be able to be on their P's and Q's and get it done because they are desperate. They're playing for their playoff lives, and they're going to have to make plays. Cade Klubnik on their side has been very effective this season. Different receivers, they've obviously have grown up. Who's going to be able to step up in those roles and make some big plays for them? Offensive lines played better. They've been able to run the ball a little bit more. After week 1 when they lost to Georgia, they only had 3 points. Everyone's kind of like, well, that Georgia defense, they shut them down. Georgia defense has been up and down all year. And ever since that game, Clemson really has been rolling people for the most part. This is a chance to we're seeing. Do you want to stay alive? What desperation do you play with? What does Dabo kind of pull out? How does he get the team inspired? You're on the road, that us versus the world mentality. If you take care of business here, you got the Citadel, which will be a win. I mean, you can focus, prepare for South Carolina, boost your stock. But the ACC is really their main focus. And you can get yourself to that ACC title game and play in Charlotte versus Miami or SMU. All you want is a chance at the end of the day. And this game right here is going to basically give them a chance to lock in that tour. So go in here, take care of business. Pitt, find that youthful exuberance you guys had early in the year where you guys are coming out just throwing, putting points on the board, having that reckless abandon. You went to Cincinnati. You didn't care. You found a way to win the ball game late because you came back. Now, I think the pressure got to you in the past few weeks. Obviously, playing SMU is a tall task, but the game versus Virginia, I think the pressure was still there. Man, we've won so many games. We're still in the ACC race. We have a chance for this. and guys start reading press clippings, guys start maybe getting a little too comfortable. And then even when the way you're playing, maybe you haven't really self-scouted as much on your own. Where are your own deficiencies? Where you have opportunities for improvement? So hopefully these past 2 weeks, Pitt has done a little introspective review. How do they keep themselves? Where have we gotten too overly suggestive in a certain route or formation? How can we change things up and really just see if Clemson's probably going to have the more depth, I think, but Pitt right now might have the more excitement. And they're at home, brush off. I think Pitt has nothing to lose, which gives them a little edge. But Clemson, I trust Cade Klubnik right now. I can't believe I've been saying that. I trust Cade Klubnik at this point in the season to lead Clemson on the road and get a W. The Tigers, it will be a battle. It will be a fight. They will not blow out Pitt. Pitt will be in it to the fourth quarter, but Clemson will pull away and keep their ACC hopes and their faint playoff hopes alive. But it'll be one of those fun games where I think we're going to see a lot of points. The over probably a good play, but it will be a fun one in the ACC.
Fresh, Clemson is the College Football Playoff Committee's ex-significant other. They had some good times together. Clemson wins a couple of national titles with them. Things are great. And then all of a sudden, Clemson gets annoying. Clemson lets itself go. And the College Football Playoff Committee kind of breaks up with them. And, we don't really want anything to do with them. But what's happening now is that Clemson is trying to get the College Football Playoff Committee back. And if there is chaos that goes on, if there is more chaos that happens that we haven't seen so far, and all of a sudden, Clemson's got a new quarterback. They got that Cade Klubnik. Hey, Clemson's looking a whole lot better. And then there's the College Football Playoff Committee scrolling through Clemson's Instagram, checking out all the things that they're doing over there on offense. They're checking out, that Clemson defense has looked pretty good sometimes here. All of a sudden, they want Clemson back. They want Clemson back because it winds up being this marquee name, and it maybe is something that really it wasn't. Again, I look at this Clemson team, and I look at, what is this a product of? Is this a product of a really, subpar ACC? Because you take a look at their schedule, Fresh. The only good team that they've played on their schedule in the ACC is Louisville. North Carolina State, disappointing them. Stanford, okay. Florida State, nope. Wake Forest, Virginia, mediocre at best. Louisville they lose to, and they beat Virginia Tech in an okay game. This is, again, they're being surrounded by middle-tier teams, and, hey, we're the College Football Playoff Committee. Clemson, you're looking real good these days here. Maybe we should think about getting back together. No. You broke up with Clemson for a reason. Someone needs to be the friend that comes in and goes, listen, it was nice what you guys had together. It's over. And I'm praying to God right now that the Pitt Panthers are that friend to tell the College Football Playoff Committee it's over. Stop looking over at Clemson, longing for the days of what you used to have, thinking about, this could be a good idea, because Clemson's beat nobody. I honestly think if Clemson gets in on the ACC automatic bid, they are going to get destroyed in the first round. They're absolutely going to get boat raced by somebody, whether that would wind up being Penn State, whether that would wind up being Alabama, whoever it is. Heck, I would even say I think Clemson would be boat raced by Notre Dame. I think this team would absolutely be taken to the woodshed in Notre Dame. I'm really nervous about Clemson as a double-digit road favorite in this game. Pitt, yes, they've fallen on hard times. But what I've told you before, hard times make for really desperate teams, and desperate teams want to pull themselves out of the ashes and play really, really well. You take a look at Pitt right now, Fresh. 7-2 on the year. They have 3 games left. They got Louisville and BC. Both those games are on the road. This is their senior day. This is senior day, and Clemson's a 10-point road favorite. If Pat Narduzzi has any ounce of encouragement, any ounce of motivation, that's it right there. We're a double-digit dog to Clemson on senior day? Oh, hell no. I think this Pitt team's going to come out fired up, ready to go, and they are going to completely delete the Instagram account of the Clemson Tigers. The College Football Playoff Committee is not going to want them back anymore. This Pitt Panther team is going to get after it. They're going to get after Cade Klubnik. They're going to take him down. Give me the Pitt Panthers in an upset. I'm not taking Pitt in the points. I'm taking it straight up. Pitt will end Clemson's time in the ACC right here and now. And yes, Dabo, shove that in your stupid, annoying face.
Wow. Bravo. That was a speech right there, folks. That was an impassioned speech. Totally on the soapbox and everything. I mean, I can see it happen. I can see it coming out with the energy, but I don't know. Cade has played well, and they have some guys about the defense for Clemson. I think it's just still like, hey, you always say it. You got to beat the man, you got to beat the man, and they're still outside of Florida State completely falling on their face, they're still the logo in the ACC right now that's had some dominance for a run. Until you beat them, they're still there and still living.
Right. Well, Ric Flair said, I'm just quoting Ric Flair, who's a remarkable individual. But remember, hard times, Daddy. Ric Flair don't know what hard times is. American dream, dusty roads. Fresh, no, again, I know Clemson is still a really good quality football team. As I go into an impassionate speech there, but you know what? I'm just over it. I think I'm getting more and more annoyed with people propping up the name and saying like, oh, look how great they are. And then you look at their schedule, they're like their schedule's trash. What?
Nothing.
Like Ohio State, we at least beat Penn State and 1 point loss to Oregon in Eugene. But like Texas or some other teams, I digress. We could argue resumes. That was something we do on a wrap-up show there. All right, Fresh. Let's go to Manhattan, Kansas, the Sunflower State, the wonderful, wonderful people of K-State and the Wildcats. They're going to be hosting the Sun Devils of Arizona State. We haven't talked a lot of Sun Devils here, Fresh. 7-2 on the year, 4-2 in the Big 12. K-State is 7-2 as well. 4-2 in the conference. Fresh, at time of record, Kansas State is a 9-point home favorite. Over under is set at 50.5. I took a look at Arizona State. You take again, I was ripping them for, I'm ripping Clemson for not playing anybody. Again, I kind of could say the same thing about Arizona State, but what you got for Arizona State and the K-State Wildcats?
Well, Arizona State, I think we all had very, very, very low expectations for them coming into the season.
Right.
Let's get for last year, they were terrible. The Herm Edwards era before that, they were brutally bad. Kenny Dillingham got the guys playing pretty well. They show up. They're 7-2, 2 losses in the league. Their non-conference schedule, they beat the trash out of Mississippi State and some other schools where they all were there. They were not going to be scheduling powerhouses unless they were going to be getting them with the check to get themselves beat. But they've showed positive flows and positive energy. They definitely have dealt with injury bugs all year long. Sam Levitt has been in and out of the lineup every once in a while, the starting quarterback. Stadabo has been in and out of the lineup. 2 of them are the straws that serve the drink for that entire Sun Devil offense. If they don't play or they're dinged up, they're in trouble. But if they're on the field, they're going to have energy, they're going to have playmakers, and they're going to get some things. Give yourself a chance to win. Defense is still something that's coming along, getting better and better as the season's gone on. But this is definitely the focus of Sam Levitt at quarterback, Michigan State transfer, and then Stadabo, the running back. It's Scatabo, who's when he plays, he is a human highlight reel. He is running people. He looks for contact. He's running people over. He catches the ball. He can run the ball. He can score touchdowns. One man wrecking crew, and 11 at quarterback is giving them some stability. He's not going to go out there and throw 500 yards each game. Not going to be, completing 60 passes. He's going to make the big third down throw, make the smart throw, make the smart decision, use his legs when he needs to be, and he creates some interesting problems for the defense. I think they're just waiting for that signature win to put them back on the map. Like, hey, we are here. The schedule hasn't been as daunting as other people have. They sort of you got to play it. They're playing through. They're doing that to do. This is that first marquee game for Arizona State, going up to the Little Apple in Manhattan, taking on a Kansas State program that is very, very tough, very, very gritty, very, very difficult to play at home, no matter what year you're going up there to see a purple. And the Wildcats know how to play football at a high level and very disciplined about it. It's going to be interesting to see how Arizona State handles the increased and heightened expectation. Obviously, we talked about with Colorado, the race for the Big 12, championship game, BYU, almost kind of being unlocked there. The loser of this game is, in essence, 100% out of the race. Like, your 3 losses in the league, you're kind of done. The winner keeps themselves in case chaos ensues down the road, where they could maybe have Iowa State lose another ball game, or Colorado maybe takes another L, or BYU starts getting a couple losses, which they shouldn't, but they might. You sort of keep yourselves in the race, in the hunt, and you got a pulse to make the Big 12 title game. And the loser, you really start preparing for bowl season and then spring practice and that sort of thing. So who's going to play a little desperate? It's very, very difficult to win on the road. How can Scatabo and Levitt keep that entire Sun Devil offense ready to go? They're also going to have to score touchdowns. You're not going to beat Kansas State with field goals. You need to find ways to get in the end zone multiple times and take care of business and keeping that Avery Johnson, Giddens, offense on the sideline. They're very, very well coached in Kansas State. They find ways to show up. They get it done when nobody expects them to. They went to Colorado, got that win. They took care of Arizona when we saw Noah Tatinta and McMillan show up. They shut them down and gave them no chance. They beat Tulane. They have a solid resume. They do have 2 losses though. They should have lost to Kansas, but they found a way to get, resilient and fight back and beat the Jayhawks in the in-state rivalry there in the Sunflower State. They're a resilient football team. They're well battle tested. And that's the one thing they have to their advantage. They're battle tested. They're at home. You play on that factor. You have everything in your case. Just run the ball, attack them with your legs, attack them with your arm, Avery Johnson. At times you can be a little erratic with the football. Just throw the ball. You don't throw a million miles an hour. Don't throw 1,000 yards. Hit your receivers in stride. Let the playmakers do the thing. Use your legs like you always do. Be smart. Limit the turnovers, and you'll be just fine. I think Kansas State has just too many weapons. Being at home, too much momentum. Across the board, top to bottom, they're a much better football team. The depth perspective is even, greater. But Arizona State, keep the core together. If they come in here and compete, you keep that core together going forward. This is a nice little springboard into year 3 for Kenny Dillingham. This might be kind of a checkpoint. Where's this team really at? Are they really ready to compete with the big boys in the Big 12 and make a statement? So it should be a fun, exciting game. I think Arizona State hangs around the first half, and then K-State pulls away, and the Wildcats prevail and keep themselves alive in the Big 12 race.
K-State, the one thing I keep going back with Kansas State here, Fresh, is DJ Giddens. I think he's averaging 6.1 yards a carry right now, which is up from last year by a half a yard as well. And he's just outside the 1,000-yard mark as well. Why do I keep getting the feeling, though, when I watch K-State, I feel like there's times where he just disappears in that offense. Like last year, I felt like he was a huge focal point in the offense. And maybe he had to be, we're not there all week. We're not there with game plans and what they're seeing when they do their own scouting and what have you. But I just get that sense that Giddens needs to be involved a little bit more. Not a lot more. I'm not saying to give the guy 35 carries in a game. But the last 4 games, the guy's been 19, 18, 17 has been the amount of carries that he's had. And he has 200 yards and 3 touchdowns in that span there. Not bad stats. They're not terrible. But when you're a marquee running back in a program, I feel like you should be getting more out of him than that. right there. And I know Avery Johnson runs the football. He's a dual threat quarterback, what have you on it. K-State, like, this is a big one for them. This is only the second time they've been back in Manhattan since the end of September. They haven't had a lot of home games in the back half of the season. They've been road warriors, man. You take a look at this. They've been on the road since that September 28th game against Oklahoma State, and the only time they were at home was in the Sunflower Bowl against Kansas. I really think, like, K-State needs this game against Arizona State. Like, they need this to bounce back, get that taste, because they've had 2 weeks of that taste of Houston in their mouth, of losing a game where they really shouldn't have lost that game. Houston's not a good football team. How in the world Arizona State or K-State lost that game? Taking a look at Arizona State, I mean, I went with you in just how many times can we say Cam Scatabo? It's just a fun name to say, is Scatabo. And you take a look at, it's a great name. If he is kind of what I'm expecting DJ Giddens to be, even though Scatabo has less carries than him, but he's caught the ball more. And again, you take a look at his break line. I don't think he's played as much this year with the injuries that has gone on. But, you know, you kind of wonder how Arizona State has got to where they are. They're +7 in the turnover margin there as well. They're controlling the football for over half of the game. And on top of that, most importantly, you take a look at their punt returns. They are averaging almost 15 yards per return. So you think about this, is every time I'm punting the ball to you and you're returning it, you're picking up an extra first down. And, like, if you flip that and you say, like, okay, what's K-State doing? K-State's averaging just over 12 yards a return there as well. I think little things like that make a huge difference. Arizona State, again, the majority of your schedule, the tough part of your schedule, you got K-State this weekend, you got BYU at home in Arizona next weekend, and then you have the rivalry game with the guys over at Arizona. Arizona State, are they going to be a 7-5 team, or is this an 8, maybe 9-win football team? Where is that, like, 9th win going to come from? I like them better than Arizona, but it's a rivalry game, so anything can happen there. I don't know, Fresh. I think K-State wants this game more. I think they're going to kind of win this going away. But again, Arizona State, if they can do the same thing they've done against lesser competition, they can make this one real interesting.
Yeah, I mean, K-State's defense, I think, is one thing we don't talk about. They're a bunch of solid tackles, but they have to show up in this ballgame, because if Levitt, Scatabo start getting loose, you start thinking, like you mentioned, the Houston loss. Like, there's an inexplicable loss that you're like, okay. At first, we even thought when K-State went to BYU and they got beat, we're like, man, that was a bad loss. But then BYU has turned to really become very resilient and find ways to win. They have to remain focused. I know I've said it multiple times tonight, but we're at the part of the year where if you're the favorite and you have things in front of you, don't play with your food. Take care of business. Don't try to do things stupid. Just be smart, play football, you get to win. You don't have to win by 40. You just need to win the ballgame. And keep your season in front of you. Make it to the next week. If you stumble now, you start falling behind. It becomes just all right, nice to see you. That's great. Let's go play in the
Bahamas Bowl.
The Twizzlers Bowl out there in San Diego or something. It just becomes something that's a waste. And some guys
is it really called the Twizzlers Bowl?
No, but there should be a Twizzlers Bowl. I think they're pretty cool. We got Pop-Tart Bowls, we got whatever else, so might as well just add the Twizzlers. But I digress. But keep your season in focus. You still have a lot ahead of you to accomplish. Don't mess it up. You can't afford another bad loss. Be resilient and play smart. If Arizona State pulls this one off, though, Kenny Dillingham, I mean, it's going to be tough not to get the Big 12 Coach of the Year to either, the guy in BYU or Coach Prime in Colorado, but it puts him in a great spot. You've got a program ahead of schedule in a very, battle-tested, very heavy parity Big 12 where anything can happen. You find a way to get the Arizona State team off the mat. So either way, it's been a great story, but I think K-State, like you mentioned before, they're the more resilient, they have the better depth, and they find a way to win.
Arizona State would be interesting if they especially get to 8-9 wins. See what that does to them for them in recruiting, because they can recruit the Nevada area real well, and they can also recruit Southern California. They have a lot of opportunities to keep kids kind of close to home. And again, Arizona State's got a very nice reputation for a lot of other things
very festive
for
very
guys
festive
who want
environment.
Right, and for guys who want to play college football. So, again, this could be the start of something great, or could this just be another, oh, hey, they had a nice season? And I think we'll know a lot within the next 2 weeks with Arizona State. All right, Fresh, let's go up north, state of Wisconsin. It's getting cold up there. It's getting into football weather. This game is going to be under 50 degrees when they play it. The Oregon Ducks are used to cold weather too, though. And they are going to Madison, Wisconsin. This is a gut check game for Coach Fickle over there, man. Oregon is a 14.5-point road favorite. Over-under is set at 52.5. Fresh, I'm going to say this about Wisconsin. I'm going to go into it has been every single time we think that Wisconsin is starting to gain some momentum and starting to do the right thing, it's like Lucy taking the football and pulling it away from Charlie Brown as he's trying to kick the extra point. That's what I feel like Luke Fickell is doing to us every time we look at Wisconsin. Like, we're like, okay, Wisconsin, yeah, yippee, yeah, you're doing great. And all of a sudden, and then, oh, you have a rough loss to Penn State. Okay, well, it's Penn State. They're one of the top 10 teams in the country. And then you let Iowa, who has one of a unique offensive philosophy, score 42 points on you. I'm so like, and again, I have such respect for Wisconsin. I have such respect for this program and everything that goes on there. But you lost 42-10 when Iowa didn't even have 100 yards passing. You gave up 329 yards on the ground and 5 touchdowns. I don't care who you are. Those are terrible numbers. I think that 14.5 is really, really low for Oregon. This game should be closer to, I'd probably say 3 touchdowns, maybe 24.5. I don't know. This could get real ugly.
It's funny you talk about the game.
Let's say you, Fresh.
Badgers versus Iowa. They got combine. They got John Deere. They got tractor race. You know, it's not both grade. They got tractor race. There's no answer. Like, Braden Locke is the quarterback. Obviously, there's injuries there, so he got to start. You're not seeing receivers get separation. You're not seeing them run the ball. The offensive line for Wisconsin's been non-existent. It's been average at best. For having 2 solid players in Holler and I forget the cornerback's name, but 2 solid, preseason all Big Ten players to come back in the secondary. Nowhere to be found. No impact players. We're not getting pressure off the edge. It's just been all season long. From whatever, this will be year 2 of Luke Fickell coming in, recruiting, and you just see him dud after dud. And it's not like, you should have been built up. The fans were paying for Alabama to come to town. Penn State comes to town. Oregon comes to town. Like, this is supposed to be the year. We have marquee names in the schedule. Get this team ready to show up, and you got to pull off and get upset on one of them. Bama, they boat raced you. Penn State, you hung around early, and then the pick 6 ended it. And Oregon's offense, Milroe is a one-man wrecking crew for Alabama. Dylan Gabriel in that offense is just weapons everywhere. And if they look that bad versus Alabama, where Ryan Williams and Jim Milroe are just getting going, I'm very worried about how the defense is going to hold up for Oregon and Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning has that cut-through Nick Saban, Kirby Smart mentality after working for both of them in his career. He is going to go for the jugular and do whatever he can. Because right now, for him, it's about style points. Because he knows he's the number 1 team in the country. And if you keep blowing people out, that's going to secure the number 1 seed, assuming they win the Big Ten. If not, you keep blowing people out and maybe you lose to Ohio State or Penn State in the Big Ten title game, you're probably going to be the fifth seed. But at least you're keeping yourself in that pecking order, because right now, the one seed or the fifth seed, looking like they have a pretty good path if the way the bracket plays out. You want to keep your name up in the top. If he's going for that third touch, he's going for the third touchdown. Coming into the year, we even talked about how Dylan Gabriel was within shouting distance of some all-time passing records in college football history. If they just keep chucking the ball, if they have a lead, keep adding on, so laying some stats in there to help get him close and keep within that distance as the games go forward, with obviously a Big 12 title game in their future and multiple playoff games, and all the stats being counted, you want to give yourself a chance. So this is an opportunity, prime time, everybody watching under the lights there in Camp Real, jump around between the third and fourth quarter. That's great and all. But will the fans even be there between the third and fourth quarter because the team's in the game? Or will the fans just wait until the game, the quarter changes over, they jump around and they leave and they go to the ball? How does the Badgers as a whole, offensively, defensively, special teams, coaching staff, keep the environment hostile and keep them in the ball game the entire time against a very, very, very talented offense and defense for Oregon? Unless they run the ball, and you have to run the ball for almost 200 yards, in my opinion, and maintain time possession for Wisconsin, to be in this football game, you can't kick field goals, you can't turn the ball over, you have to play near perfect to beat the Oregon Ducks.
Let me ask you this, Fresh.
I would watch this game more if we were in like college football mode where you had the mascot games. Just give me the Oregon Duck versus Bucky and Badger, let the teams play that way.
Right.
But it's gonna probably be really ugly.
What are the probabilities Fickle is coaching for his job right now?
I don't think year 2. I think year 3. But if you do-show in your third big game at home, you're on the hot seat going into 25. Like, you're in the hot seat going into 25. Well, if Billy Napier can keep his job, Luke Fickle's not getting fired.
Yeah. But you take a look at this and you think about for a second here, and again, just humor me for a moment here. You take a look at 23. They make a bowl game right, but they wind up what? 7 wins, 6 losses last year. And then year 2, you take a look at the rest of the year. You're talking about you got to go to – they're going to Nebraska. Nebraska's desperate to be a bowl-eligible team. And then you have the Little Brown Jug, right? Where's that? Is that last week?
Paul Bunyan's X.
Paul Bunyan's X, thank you. Minnesota, Michigan's Little Brown Jug. But Paul Bunyan's X against Minnesota, rivalry week. I mean, none of these 3 games are a gimme.
No, none of them are gimme locks.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there thinking, I go, imagine I'm the Wisconsin AD, and I get it. You got to give a guy usually 3 years. But when we're not seeing gradual improvement, where we're not putting, where we can't like point to a reason to say like, this is the reason we need to give you a third year. I hate to say this. I really hate to say this because I love Luke Fickle outside of his time at Ohio as a coach at Ohio State. Again, this is not a thing where I'm a big fan of him when he was there at Ohio State, but he's one of those guys like Dave Aranda. He's one of those guys like Bill O'Brien who's coaching at other programs who I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for him to be successful. I never want to see him beat my team, but I don't want to see him lose something because I think what he did at Cincinnati was remarkable. But at the same time, if I'm Wisconsin, what's the incentive? Like, if I'm calling Luke Fickle into the office going, point to something that has happened in 2024 that gives me hope that this thing is on the right track. Like, what can you point to?
Phil Longo's got to go. Look, we make fun of Iowa a lot for their offense being terrible. But they are who they are every single year. They are going to have an offensive line. They're going to run the football. They're a tight end factory. And they just hope the quarterback doesn't screw it up and the defense plays really well. Wisconsin and Barry Alvarez, they were known for having behemoths on the offensive line and they just ran the ball downhill and then ran play action off of it. They didn't go out and get 5-star quarterbacks. They didn't go get 4-star quarterbacks. They just got some guys who like, you go out here, all you have to do is make 6 throws a game. We're going to run the ball. They're going to drop everybody in the box, play action every once in a while, hit a Lee Evans or a Chris Chambers deep for a touchdown. Boom, we move on. Russell Wilson, his arrival in Madison kind of changed, maybe give the Badger fans a false sense of who they're supposed to be. Like, because he threw the ball around that TJ Watt team. They went to the Rose Bowl. They were not who the Badgers historically had been. And ever since then, you've sort of seen them trying to get back to who they were. Paul Chryst won with less resources, less recruiting budget, basically, than what is currently available to Luke Fickell, and Luke is getting butt whooped. You need to go back to just, you know what? I want to have a power offense. We are going to put big dudes in the offensive line again and run the football and run play action, a lot of 12 personnel, and something to spread offense. It's just, it's not Big Ten football. It's not going to be the grinded out. They need to be able to slow the pace down and play defense to win big games. They're not going to win shootouts, because you know what? You're not getting kids that want to go play Madison in a recruiting visit to get enough of those dudes up there to go run around and play football. I don't care what your NIL, transfer portal, whatever it is. It's not who you are, and it's not going to be successful. You've got to take a step back and reevaluate what you are and what you should be and who your fan base is and who the program is. You're getting away from yourself, and that is going to be painful. We've talked about college football 2025, the video game. Yes, it's the video game, but there are teams where the way they built the game mentality-wise, you have to play within who you are. Your players cannot fit all different offensive and defensive philosophies based on their skill set. Sometimes you just got to be who you are. You got to play to that strength, or if you try to play against a weakness, you're going to lose football games. The Badgers need to reset themselves. Look at what Illinois and Minnesota are. Brett Bielema builds an offensive line and builds defense behind it, and they run the football and they run play action, and they're being, for the most part, somewhat successful. They're not going to win shootouts and score 40 points a game, but the defense and the running game are going to keep you in the football game. Back to what you talked about for NIL and getting players, and I'll end with my rant here. McIntosh was named the AD. He's a former Badger offensive lineman under the Barry Alvarez days. He refuses to play the NIL game, and the Badgers themselves are refusing to play the NIL game. The basketball team had 3 guys or 4 guys off that roster last year that was very, very, pretty solid, and the year before it was pretty solid. A lot of young up-and-coming guys. They let them off the transfer portal because they refused to play the NIL game, and guys were like, hey, I'm going to get paid somewhere else. If you're a football player in the day of the NIL, what incentive do you have to go to Wisconsin to play? In transfer portal, you're going to get scrap kids off the heat who are just looking for playing time, but you're not going to get the elite guy to be a difference maker. So if you're not investing in your recruiting classes from a freshman perspective, and you're not landing elite transfer kids, you just have a bunch of guys, but they're not being coached up and they're not the elite level. You're just going to wade away in the middle. In the Big Ten right now, with it expanding out, where Oregon and USC and Washington and are joining the league, you're already competing with the Ohio States, the Michigans, the Nebraska's even probably going to pass you in terms of NIL, and the Penn States of the world. You're going to fall behind. You're just going to become a school in the middle. You're just going to be You're not going to be able to win a Big Ten title in football. Those days are probably long gone anyway. You even shot for a playoff spot. It's gone. You've got to change who you are. You got to catch up with the times. If you're not going to catch up with the times, then at least go back to what you truly traditionally are and try to win old school ways and try not to be a fake football team right now where you're trying to run a spread offense with no weapons.
Yeah. Yeah, well, no, it's not rant. It's facts. And again, Barry Alvarez is sitting there probably pulling out whatever hair he had remaining.
He joined the radio station. He's now doing the radio commentary, like the ESPN Madison station. He's talking trash about the program.
14 sacks on the year and they're not -5 in the turnover differential. Come on, Wisconsin. Again, Wisconsin fans deserve better. I'm with you, Fresh.
Dan Lanning and Dylan Gabriel are about to put a butt whooping on them. And really just icing on the cake, lock it in that they are ready to go to Indianapolis and be prepared for whoever decides to show up there and give them a fight. Right.
All right, Fresh, let's go to the game of the week. Although recent reports, this is going to be something to follow earlier this week. The Tennessee Volunteers, they're traveling to Athens, Georgia to play the Georgia Bulldogs. Tennessee is 8-1 on the year, 5-1 in the SEC. Georgia 7-2 on the year, 5-2 in the SEC. At time of record, it is a Georgia 10-point favorite in this game. Over-under is set at 48.5. The big story in this game, Nico, is they haven't announced him being out yet, but they also have not announced that he is playing. They say that this is a situation to be watching right now. It's a huge uncertainty what they're going to do. I mean, I don't know, man. He took a concussion last week. If Tennessee, I know Tennessee has been a running football team and play defense, and those two things do travel very well. But Gaston Moore is our quarterback that we're going to play against this Georgia team. I mean, this game could get ugly quick, fast, and in a hurry if Nico does not play. And even if Nico does play, this to me is an elimination game. The loser of this game is out of the college football playoff.
Well, I think even more so for Georgia, because Tennessee only have one loss. They might be able to stay in the periphery, whatever. If Georgia loses, they're done. And I mean, that's Tennessee has a chance to end Georgia's season on November 16th. They've got their butts whooped by Kirby and the Dawgs for an extensive period of time. Last time they won was 2016. Right. And that was by a Hail Mary at the buzzer in his first year again on his worst football team in 2016. This is a chance for Josh Heupel to exercise demons, for Tennessee Volunteer fans to exercise some demons, to lock themselves in the playoff and even keep their chance alive for an SEC title. There is a lot on the line. It has been, in the past, obviously, under Heupel, we expected throwing the ball around, tons of passing yards, quarterbacks who could throw the ball 90 yards on their knees and, blindfolded, blah, blah, blah. This football team, Nico's sort of getting under and trying to figure it out. They've run the ball to hell and high water, and it's been impressive. The offensive line has been blowing people off the line of scrimmage, and Dylan Sampson and the rest of their backup running backs have been just churning through holes, untouched all over the field. Dylan Sampson has run for 20 touchdowns, folks. He is one of, I think, 13 or 14 different people who have scored more touchdowns than Florida State has as a team so far this season. Florida State scored 14 touchdowns. I think there's like 13 players in all of college football who have individually scored more touchdowns than Dylan Sampson's one of them is 20. He should be in the Heisman competition, committee competition right now. And if he puts on the show on Saturday night in Athens and they beat Georgia, Dylan Sampson might put himself in that top four right there because if he has a night, that's a big marquee game with eyes on it. That puts you in the conversation. That defense for Tennessee, it's been elite. They have not been able to say that in Knoxville for a long, long time. This reminds me of the Phil Fulmer late 90s, early 2000 teams where they were dominant. They had third and Chavis every once in a while, but those Al Wilson days where they would just beat the trash out of people and they were hitting you and they were physical. They were able to get after the quarterback. They owned the line of scrimmage. Their secondary played well. Like, this is a Tennessee defense that's ready for a fight. And they've done it week in and week out. It's been impressive to see this change. They've had some growth. They've had some, transfer kids come in there and show up and make plays. And it's been eventful. They took care of Alabama. They showed up versus the Tide. Georgia's defense in the first half did not. If you want to compare apples to oranges or apples to apples in that case, they've been able to make plays and get things done. Defensively, they even showed up versus Arkansas. The offense had that 3 or 4 game stretch where they couldn't score in the first half. That comes back to that passing game. And ironically, both these teams have underachieving passing games, whether it's drop passes, just inexperience, quarterbacks not making the big time throws, maybe coordinators being a little more scared to have them throw the football because they have some potential issues in the passing game. Tennessee's offensive line right now is outplaying Georgia's offensive line, so I don't think it's from the lack of protection for Tennessee's perspective. I think it's more of a receivers not being on the same page with Nico and him being young. But the passing games both have underachieved for various different reasons on both these teams. Which offense will show up on Saturday night? Georgia's offense, the list is endless right now. We can go who's on where the deficiencies in offense are. Whether it's offensive line can't block a fly. The receivers dropping the football, which lead the country now in drops. They are 104th in rushing out of 130 teams. It's terrible. This offense at any kind of level is well below standard. It reminds me of the 2019 Georgia football team where they could not score. The defense would give up 10 points and they would lose 10-9, or they would lose like 11-10, or 10-9. They just couldn't score. They would mediocre at best offensive production. This team right here, there's something. It's just, is it coaching? Is it play calling? Is it just talent? Is it injuries? Is it guys just not having the confidence? There's a whole bunch of stuff being thrown in the pot, and none of it's working right now. Last week I called, hey, to slow down that defensive front for Ole Miss, you need to run the football and take the aggression to them and put them on their heels instead of them getting that pass rush. Well, even when they tried to run the ball, there was Ole Miss, defensive linemen sitting in the backfield every single play. Ole Miss defensive line is a lot better than Tennessee, but that doesn't mean Tennessee is bad. I expect them to be the aggressors to come after it. So what does Georgia do? Who wants to step up and look everyone in the eye and say, you know what, enough is enough. Let's try to get something done. It's painful to watch at times because we've seen how talented the team could be in other games. We saw what they did at Texas. We've seen other games where they would put points on the board. We saw a good host of these players last year with Dylan Bell at receiver, Delp at tight end, Carson Beck quarterback, and three of the guys in the offensive line being there. But just they're not. There's a whole mess going on right now, and I don't think anyone right now outside of that locker room, that coaching staff, has an answer. And maybe the coaches and the players don't even have an answer. But you know what? You're playing for everything. You're playing for the standard of Georgia football on Saturday night. If you lose, your season's done. If you win, you keep yourself alive and be able to keep moving forward the rest of the year, and who knows what's going to happen. But everything is on the table. This is an elimination game. And I think the last time Georgia went into a football game, that it was an elimination game mentality where they had nobody was believing in them. Everything was counted out was Texas. And I'm also going to say it was Michigan in the 2021 season after that loss in the SEC title game. People were kind of like, is this Georgia team really ready to play? And then the subsequent game versus Alabama, again, the rematch. Like those games where they had nothing. But in those three games, that Georgia team actually had an offense, and we had players who were going to show up. I don't know who's going to show up on Saturday night for Georgia's offense to get it done. ETN's banged up. Frazier's ran well, but he had some fumble issues. Offensive line can't block. Dylan Bell's dropping the ball. Humphrey's dropping the ball. Arian Smith's not running the right route sometimes. Lovett's not a big game breaker. He's a short, he's a bubble screen kind of guy, possession receiver. Lawson Lucky is the only real tight end getting there. Yurosek's made a couple good plays, but he hasn't been consistent. Cash Jones arguably could be the best player in that Georgia offense right now since our season. And then Carson Beck is dealing with the stress, the burden, maybe not the talent. It's totally there. It's a whole mess. Who's going to show up and get it done? Defensively, a lot of issues there. Defense, where's the pass rush? Where's the secondary? Who's going to show up? Who's going to tackle in space? Isn't there a lot of questions need to be answered this week? A lot of things going on in practice. The only positive coming into the game right now that I can see is that Georgia is ranked 12th in the college football playoff and 11th AP poll. They're on right now. They have nothing to lose. You win, you keep yourself alive. You lose, you're still on the outside. You're done. Season over. You move on. Where's the standard? Who's going to rise up to that Georgia standard? Who's going to rise up and play for each other and play for the G on the helmet, play for the red on the jersey, play disciplined football, play aggressive football, and get it done? This is Tennessee. It's a very, very talented football team. You have something you have to live up to. The previous classes came in and beat them. You have to go up to that standard to get it done because Tennessee, they have enough anger and talent. If they smell blood, they'll put it to the boots to you and kick you out of Athens, kick you out of Sanford Stadium, and stomp all over the G and disrespect everyone at the stadium. Nobody wants to see putrid orange spewing out and celebrating in Athens after the game on Saturday night. You've got to defend the territory. You haven't been home. You only had 3 home games up to this point all season long. You got to defend the stadium, defend the brand, defend the Bulldog Nation. And to wrap it, movie Rookie of the Year came out in 1993. Henry Rogater is sitting out there on the mound. He's struggling. Hasn't really figured it out yet. Chet Stedman been working with him. He sends Chet out there. He's like, hey, go talk to the kid. He's like, you've been working with him. So Chet walks out there, rusty old vet, stands on the mound, starts talking to him. He's like, hey, to have to. It's in the soul. To have to. You got to find it deep down. You got to go get it and just play and get it done. To have to. Let's see it. He's walking away. Henry Rogater's like, what the heck was he talking about? And he's talking to him. He's like, what the heck was I talking about? But in the end, Roland Garner kind of figured it out, calmed himself down, started throwing strikes, throwing 100-mile-an-hour pitches, and became the superstar that kind of carried the Cubs in the movie. You got to find the have-to, Georgia. You got to find the deep down in the soul. Figure it out. There's too much talent, too many four-star recruits on the football team, five-star recruits who playing this terrible. Figure it out. Find the have-to, get it done. It doesn't have to be by 20 points. You just got to beat Tennessee and move forward. Keep your season alive. In the end, I can't pick against the Dawgs. I can't pick Tennessee. Georgia's going to win 20-13 in a ugly, smash-mouth, old-school football game. Somehow Georgia will find a way to win the football game, play some defense. It ain't going to be pretty. It ain't going to be sexy, but in the end, it's going to be a W. The Dawgs find a way to keep the season alive and move forward.
All right, Fresh. So here's where my questions start to come into play. And I watch football games, and I start at, one game, I start to go, all right, it's just one game. Try not to be overreactive of a single game. When I start to see something in back-to-back games, that's when I start to get a little nervous. This Georgia offense has looked good in very small spurts. You take a look at everyone wants to point at the second half of the Alabama game, but really, that first half of that, if you want to say that, okay, well, let's also look at the first half of the Alabama game. You look at the Texas game. Texas was a phenomenal showing by them. But again, 7 points in the second half. Again, you were up 23-0 at halftime. You really could have completely put the boots to Texas, and you don't manage a touchdown until the fourth quarter. I need to see Georgia come out and really take control of this game on the offensive side of the football to answer my questions. Now, I'm not going to choose Tennessee to win this football game because I think the Nico situation is a huge issue. I think that if you have to go to your backup for the entire game here, it's one thing. The kid comes in. Hey, it's Mississippi State. Nico goes down. You're spelling him out for, a couple drives here. That's one thing. But to play a 4-quarter football game against Georgia, when they're really going to need you at times, they're going to need either you to do it with your feet or they're going to need you to do it with your arm. And not having Nico would be a huge loss for Tennessee. I get it. Samson, defense, all of those things, great Tennessee. But at the end of the day, still the most important position on the field is the quarterback. Same problem with Georgia, though. Carson Beck, listen, man, you have one of, if I remember right, I think he was 9th in overall NIL deals. He's 9th in all college sports, not just
money.
Football. Right. And I believe it is there, and I figured out he is making over $750,000 per interception that they have right now. He's got to be a whole lot better. He's got to be able to process better. I don't know what it is. The kid, it's like a Jekyll and Hyde. We saw a really good quarterback last year. A really good quarterback. He was the favorite to win the Heisman. He was the favorite going into the season to win the Heisman. And again, I don't know if it's whatever TikTok and Instagram and girlfriend that he's got, whatever NIL deal he's got, whatever the heck else it is, you are there to play football. Offensive line, there's questions there on, again, I'm waiting to see one of these Georgia running backs. Again, not saying there hasn't been flashes, because there are times where all right, they're cooking. They got it back into it. But Todd Gurley, Nick Chubb, Sony Michel, there's a list of Georgia running backs that are marquee. We talked earlier about Wisconsin going back to being Wisconsin football. I would say the same thing with Georgia. The fact that you are almost you have almost thrown the football almost 100 times more than you have run the football. 70 more times here, give or take a little bit here. But again, you're a running football team. You use it to set up play action. Now, again, you have set a standard. We've talked about this in years prior, Fresh. Georgia set a standard. The standard is a level of higher expectations. Okay? Most people in the country would be happier than a clam to be in the position Georgia is in. And again, I'm not picking them to lose in this football game. I think going back to Athens, getting a chance to lick their wounds as well. The only thing that would concern me is it seems like there's more and more chatter coming out of Athens that hasn't been there in the last 4 or 5 years, of people having to answer questions about just silly, stupid stuff. Again, going back to, I know it's an accident. Kirby run into the Mississippi State player. The guy last week the Georgia player celebrating with Ole Miss fans. Again, all of the arrests, all of those things. Sooner or later, you got to take care of your own house first. You got to take care of your own house. I still think Georgia's win this football game. I'm picking Georgia here. I'm gonna say I like 24-14. I'll give 10 points at the end of it. I think that they can pull off the 10-point win here. But again, if this happens, if Georgia loses to Tennessee here, man, there's going to be some soul searching and a lot of questions in this offseason about where is this program heading to.
Well, I think the biggest one is we paid all that money for nothing.
Right.
So in the past, this is where I'm talking. My only remark about Carson Beck and NIL as a whole. In the past, these kids were college kids. They might have been getting bags on the side, but it wasn't public, so you had no idea. In reality. Now these kids are signing NIL deals, and they're bringing home more money than just about anyone else in reality. Like, you're talking $750K for a pick. It's a lot more money than I make, and I don't do too bad for myself. You're up for all the criticism because you're getting paid a lot of money to show up 15 times, 16 times a year and get the job done. I don't want that whole their kids that's long gone. That does not matter anymore. You're making more money, generational wealth, if you invest it correctly to take care of people. You need to show up and get it done, or give the money back. Have the Lambo towed or whatever. I know it's all oh my God, we're talking about towing cars, but these are all distractions. These are distractions of people. Like, they've got to get their minds right. I don't think it's that. I really think it's a myriad of everything, kind of perfect storm wise for the football team. The offensive line, significant issues there. You don't have your tackles like the Broderick Jones or Marius Mims. You don't have Cedric Van Granger at center right now, kind of stabilizing that entire line. You've had injuries across the board. We don't have two true tackles on the football team. They have a bunch of guards, so they've got to play 5 guys in the line. Dealing with injuries on top of that. The running back room, ETN being banged up. Frazier not really playing. The 2 Robinson guys not really playing almost all year this year. Receivers dropping the passes. No Brock Bowers. No Ladd McConkey. Like, the confidence guys of him going to. Not even a Rosemary Jack Saint at receiver. You're dealing with deficiencies, and guys aren't stepping up and taking it to the next level. Guys dropping the ball makes the quarterback, rethink himself. He's getting past him. He's rethinking himself. He's making bad decisions, maybe throwing the ball a little too quick because he doesn't want to get sacked. All of this stuff is going through their minds. They're stressing, they're holding on too tight. And it's funny you brought up, the relationship thing about looking at Instagram. Well, kind of go back to relationships. Sometimes you screw up relationships or dating because you hold on too tight. You don't sort of play, and you're not chill. And that's when it all goes to hell. They need to calm down, have some positive momentum, and not overthink the situation and just take it one play at a time. It's going to be interesting to see how they attack Saturday. Does Kirby get the guys to refocus and the guys play with pride? Or is it just so many things going down the road where it's become an avalanche and one thing leads to one more bad thing and eventually season's over? So this is the have-to game. Where's it deep down? Where's the have-to? We'll see on Saturday night.
Yeah. All right, Fresh, let's go quick to our Brownwater bets. We got 2 for this week. What do you got for a Brownwater bet?
Brownwater bet, Boise State at San Jose State. Ashton Genty versus Coach Ken Niumatalolo out there. I'm taking Boise State to cover the 13.5 on the road.
Fresh, I like that 62.5. That's a lot of points on the road there as well. But give me the under in that game. I think that's a little bit too many points for it in a game that I think is going to move a little bit quicker and is going to be decided on the defensive side of the football. Fresh, my Brownwater bet game, the Baylor Bears traveling to Morgantown, West Virginia. Baylor is a 2.5-point favorite. Take me home, country roads. I'm going money line on West Virginia.
I'm taking the same. Even with Garrett Green not playing and going to back quarterback, I think being back home, they've been up and down, but they've showed some life. I think they've been able to just maintain, circle the wagons, if you will, and get the job done.
Absolutely. All right, Fresh. That's week 12. It's in the books here, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, before you head out of here, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Get notified every single time we drop a new episode. Make sure you're checking out SpinableSports.com. Special thanks to our producer, Drew. Without him, none of this is possible. Like, subscribe wherever you get your podcast from. Leave us that 5-star review because you guys know Fresh and I, we're those 5-star prospects. With that, Fresh, it's been a long road here. We're getting to the end of the college football season. Last couple rounds. We're going to enjoy our time here. But that's all I got for this weekend.
Enjoy every game, folks. Every game means a lot more now. Mistakes can't be covered up. You got to find a way to show up on Saturday afternoon, every single play, full 60 minutes. With that, enjoy every game. Hit us up at SpinableSports.com. Hit us up on Spinable Sports YouTube channel. Spread the word. Subscribe. We'll talk to you later. Bye, y'all.